Okay, so let me ask you something. Have you ever been there? You finally hit that massive goal, the one you've been grinding for what feels like forever. And instead of pure joy, what you feel is, well, nothing. Just this weird, hollow feeling. It's a strange paradox that hits so many high achievers, and today we're going to dig into why that is.
And look, this isn't just some vague feeling people get. It's a real, measurable thing. Take a look at this data coming out of South Korea. You can see a steady climb in diagnoses for mood disorders, stuff like bipolar disorder, and it's hitting people right in their prime. Their 20s, 30s, and 40s. It just goes to show that constant pressure to achieve, to win, man, it can take a serious toll.
So that really brings us to the core question of all this. Why? Why do our biggest victories sometimes feel like our most crushing defeats? Well, believe it or not, the answer might just be hiding in a really, really old story. Let's get into it.
We're going to jump into the story of a man who experienced one of the highest highs you can possibly imagine. His name was Elijah, and his story kicks off with an insane showdown against a very powerful enemy. Now, to really get a feel for Elijah's victory, you first have to understand who he was up against, King Ahab. And Ahab, well, he was a guy with two totally different reputations. On the world stage, he was a massive success. I mean, historical records tell us he commanded a huge army. We're talking 2,000 chariots. But spiritually, his reign was a complete disaster. He pushed the worship of a storm god named Baal all across the nation.
So this all builds up to this absolutely epic public confrontation. You've got Elijah, all by himself, challenging 450 of Baal's prophets on top of Mount Carmel. The challenge is simple. Whose God can bring down fire from heaven? So the prophets of Baal, they go first. They dance, they shout, and crickets. Nothing. Then it's Elijah's turn. He says a simple prayer and boom, fire just incinerates his sacrifice. I mean, talk about the ultimate public victory. The crowd just loses it. You literally can't get a bigger, more decisive win than that.
But here's the twist. Right after this unbelievable triumph, the story takes a super sharp, dark turn. Right at the absolute peak of his success, Elijah just completely falls apart. And it happens in the blink of an eye.
After facing down 450 prophets, after winning over the entire country, all it takes is one message, a single threat from the furious Queen Jezebel. That's it. That one sentence is enough to totally shatter the man who had just called down fire from the sky.
And he doesn't just get a little spooked, he runs. He runs for almost 600 kilometers deep into the desert. He is so terrified he actually leaves his own servant behind and just keeps going all by himself. And this is where we hear him just hit rock bottom. He's out there in the middle of nowhere and he says, "I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too." He genuinely believes all his work was for nothing. He's absolutely convinced he's the last one standing. His whole perspective has been twisted by fear and sheer exhaustion. In his mind, he is a complete and total failure. But the fix for Elijah's burnout, it doesn't show up as another big, flashy public win. Nope. It comes from a totally different and, frankly, unexpected kind of power. So while he's hiding out in this cave on the mountain of God, Elijah witnesses this incredible series of events. First, a wind so strong it's literally shattering rocks. Then a massive earthquake. And then a raging fire. These are exactly the kind of big, loud, spectacular displays of power he was used to. But the story makes a really crucial point here. God wasn't in any of them. Then, after all that noise, after all that chaos, something else came. A quiet, gentle whisper. And this is where the real breakthrough happens. Not in the big show, but in the stillness. And this moment just perfectly lays out the two different kinds of power in the story. See, on Mount Carmel, success was all about the public spectacle, the fire, the loud, in-your-face victory. But here on Mount Horeb, his recovery comes from something totally different. Personal care, a gentle whisper, a quiet revelation. It's a total flip in what it means to be strong. And it's in that quiet moment that Elijah gets a piece of information that just completely reframes his entire reality. It's like the hidden card in the deck that changes the whole game. Elijah is told that he's not the only one left, not even close. In fact, there are 7,000 other people in Israel who have stayed faithful, people he had absolutely no idea existed. He thought he was playing his last card totally alone,
but there was this whole invisible network of support he was completely unaware of.
And this is what we can call the hidden card. It's this idea that our real strength, our resilience, so often comes from these quiet, unseen sources. It's the community and the support system that exists, even when that feeling of burnout makes us feel totally, completely isolated. And this whole idea of unseen support, it's not just some dusty old story. It's a powerful reality for us today, too. Let me give you a more recent example. Meet Bill Alcock. Back in 1963, his big dream was to be a missionary, but he was told he couldn't serve overseas because of a health issue. So, what did he do? He took a job in the mail room at the mission's headquarters. And for 48 years, he just quietly and faithfully did that job, mostly unnoticed. He wasn't on the front lines, but his steady, unseen work made the work of hundreds of others possible. He was one of the hidden 7,000. So, what does this all mean for us? How do we take this ancient story about Elijah and apply it to our own lives, especially when we're facing that same crazy paradox of success and burnout? All right, so let's tie this all together. What are the big takeaways here? First, and this is huge, burnout is so often a crisis of perspective, not just being tired, right? When we're totally drained, our world just shrinks. And just like Elijah, we can start telling ourselves the story that we're all alone. Second, we gotta rethink what strength even looks like. Yeah, the big, flashy wins are great, but real, lasting strength, that's usually found in the quiet, steady stuff. And finally, and please hear this, you are never as alone as your burnout is telling you that you are. The key to recovery, the real game changer, is starting to recognize your own hidden 7,000, that quiet network of support that's probably been there the whole time. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Who are the hidden 7,000 in your world? Who are those quiet colleagues who always have your back? The steady friends you can always count on? The unsung supporters who make everything you do possible? Taking a moment to see them, well, that might just be the most powerful antidote to burnout there is.